All right, it's happening. The first ever Growing Through Gifts, a conversation to raise your vibration.
Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to be here today, and we feel that this is the first one of many, many to come. So thank you so much for coming and for watching the replay. Either way, it works.
Mm-hmm. And we get to have our first guest, Chantal Nash. So we've had the pleasure of meeting Chantal in a, what would you call that, Chantal? What was that offering that?
It was a business boot camp.
Okay.
Unleash your business, it was.
Yes. And who was that through?
Explode.
Yes.
Explode
so
Consulting.
An amazing experience. And Chantal showed up on the first week, I think it was, and showed us how to go through our timeline, plant a goal, envision it. And this is part of this process, right? Like, we're getting to be here with you and you all with us. And Chantal naturally was a part of this, right? She helped plant the seed in our timeline. So thank you so much, Chantal, for being here.
Oh, I love that I get to also be in the timeline goal.
Yeah.
I just help people put it in there and they go do their thing. Now I'm like, here it is.
Another one. Because we met and it was a marriage, wasn't it? Like a connection, a very strong connection. We haven't met in person, but feels like we're sisters anyway. So it's so great that you are here with us. So thank you.
That's the other benefit of this whole virtual thing too, you know, like the amount of people I've got that are my closest friends, and I've never met them. One of them I just met not that long ago, and we've been like this for a year and a half, and she just came to stay a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, oh, you're real. Like it's so cool. I love it.
I love it too. The possibility for connection is so deep no matter where we physically are right now. Yeah. So before we formally introduce you, Chantal, I'm Jessica Edelbaum.
And I'm Eileen.
And together we make up Creative Connections in Zed. And so it is absolutely our honor to be in the space with you. And before we go into the head and learn a little bit, Eileen's going to invite us into the heart. And Chantal, we know that hypnosis and we know that visualization and meditation is a large part of what you offer. So we went ahead and made an assumption, which is a little bit sketchy, and we don't really recommend doing that you would be open to that. Is that okay?
That Eileen does it?
Yeah.
100%. I'm all for it. Bring it.
All right. And Carrie, are you open to it? It's going to be a heart. All right. Awesome. And for all those on the replay, you know what's coming.
Right. So if you have any oils close by, we pick one that will go here that we already use. So I'm not going to put any more because they're powerful. But if you go any essential oils close by to you, just So this will be a really 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Sometimes I go over, but I'll do my best to not do that. So if I'll invite you to close your eyes, if that's available to you. And we're going to start breathing. Breathing in the light and breathing out the worries. Breathing in anything you want, anything you feel, any calmness, and breathing out the worries again. Breathing in and feeling your body with bubbles, with joy, with presence. And breathing out the social media, the stress. And keep breathing. I invite you to feel your head, feel your shoulders, your arms, front of your body, the back of your body, all your body. And I invite you to send gratitude a deep, deep sense of gratitude to you. And if you want to put your hands in your heart, you're welcome. A sense of gratitude for being present, for being who you are, what you share, what you have come here to do. Because all of us play an important part. And filling your body with lots of gratitude, I invite you to face the earth with your hands. I want you to send some energy to the earth, to Pachamama, Papatuanuku. All the gratitude to her as well. The growth, for the exchange, for everything she does under our feet, unconditionally. Now I invite you to put the hands facing the sky, sending all our love to the sky, to the stars, to the sun, to the moon, to the galaxies, to the universe. And receiving and exchanging the energy with the universe. And lastly, but not the least, I invite you to share your hands to the screen. And the hands, the energy of the screen will go beyond. It past the computer and it goes all over, sharing our love, our intention, our healing. To all the world. And the hands might be feeling a bit warm. So I invite you to put them back into your heart. When you're ready, move your feet, move your shoulders. And let's begin this exchange of love. Thank you.
That was beautiful. That's a nice way to start an interview, that is. I might request they all start this way.
Yes.
I have trouble with mine.
As well. All right, now I need to get back into my head. Carrie, we see you smelling your oils. Will you let us know what scent you're putting on? What essential oil?
Cypress.
Cypress.
Right.
Yes.
So your trees in the background are enabling me to imagine I'm the cypress, because science and studies show that cypress, and it's actually Hinoko, but I don't have Hinoko oil, I only have the cypress oil, is the most potent for creativity and inspiration.
Wonderful.
They've done a study across a wide range of oils, and that is the one for forest bathing. You've all heard of forest bathing, right?
Yes.
You've all heard of, in Japan, and it's the Hinoko tree that produces the most creativity and connection and inspiration.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that.
I feel like I need
you're
to
welcome.
get some now for like when I'm doing when I'm working.
That's exactly what I do. That's the first oil I put on when I'm sitting at my computer. You have oils for every moment, and the cypress is my go-to for that.
Nice.
Lovely. Wow. Okay. Thank you. And Chantal, what did you put on?
I have one. I actually can't say the name of it.
Show us.
It's actually not all my doTERRA ones are here.
Oh,
this one's actually for connection. So, and it has, when you apply it, the mantra you say is that I am connected to the greater world around me.
Oh.
It's EUNOIA. It was actually gifted. Oh no, that's never going to work.
Yeah.
It was actually gifted to me when I left my job, like my day job. When I quit the day job, this was part of the thing they gave me, and I was like, oh yes.
Will you say that mantra again?
I am connected to the greater world around me.
Mm.
So while you're rolling it, I'm connected to the greater world around me, and it's beautiful smelling.
Thank you for that. Wow. So part of the vision behind this series, right, is this idea that we all have unique gifts and we all have knowledge that I don't know until I know. And the way that I get to know is you choose to share, right? And the world gets brighter when we choose to offer our gifts with one another. Like that's the whole idea behind this series. And we have no idea where it's going to go because this is the first one. So learning right about Cypress, learning about like adding mantras, right? When you roll your oils on as a way to anchor into a new experience, right? Taking the time to put your palms up, your palms down and reconnect, right? Into the heart space. These are all things that we can take with us throughout the day. So let's focus on you, Chantal, shall we? So Chantal, we were right before this, we were talking about what is your formal title, and we're going to call you a co-director of Solid 101. You are this like amazing, light-filled, funny, and yet firm being. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I feel like you just nailed it actually.
Okay.
A little bit bossy.
I like to call it organized.
Yes,
that's a good one.
Yes, we love that. You've been trained in NLP.
Yes.
And you offer that timeline therapy, which is what we had talked about in one of the ways that we met you and like really sparked that connection. Your company supports people who are considered like unemployable to retain their employment and learn and reconnect with themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, so yeah,
okay.
Yeah, qualification wise, I'm a master practitioner in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis, with a background in HR. So I was in a HR day job that, I loved it, but it wasn't serving my soul. So we basically merged, like I mentioned to you earlier, we relaunched Solid 101 last year. And yeah, I quit my full-time HR job in the middle of a brand new pandemic and relaunched the business. And predominantly we work with the long-term unemployed. We put them through workshop. They've come from backgrounds of generational Centrelink abuse, mental health challenges, drugs, alcohol, you name it. It's a good day in the office for me if they haven't told me to F off, basically. So it's a great day, so it's really, I love it. And I love those ones that do that to me. And then I flip their world and they're like, it's the best. Absolutely. It's my soul stuff. So yeah. And then I work with people from abusive backgrounds as well. That's the close to my heart stuff. So yeah, I love it. I get to just create and do whatever I want.
And you do it so well.
And create magic, that's for sure. So
yeah.
So
you go.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a question actually, if that's all right. Yeah. So what beliefs have supported you in transforming your life?
I think honestly, probably the biggest one would be the fact that from what I've gone through in my life, if I didn't do something with that, it was for nothing. What was the point of it? Right. So like I've got a background of abuse. I was abused for 10 years of my life solidly. I've had in and out of toxic relationships, all of that sort of thing. And every single time I've gone through these things, and I've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And through the tools I've got and learned, I've been able to let all that go and actually have history rewrite itself in my mind. So I don't see the stuff that actually happened anymore. I see the new things. So if I didn't do something with that, what was the point of going through abuse? Like it's there to be able to help someone else and be able to yeah, so that belief has probably been the biggest one. My entire adult journey, I think, has been something that stayed completely solid in my mind. It's like, no, I went through this for a damn reason and I'm strong enough, so I'm going to do something with it. Pretty much.
That's incredibly powerful, Chantal, right? Because sometimes when something like that happens in our life, which is traumatic and toxic, and if we don't transform it, like you just talked about, and take ourselves or invite ourselves into the more and most powerful stance in it, it can eat it at us and
it will.
Us.
Yeah, it absolutely will, and it will keep showing up in certain ways until you do face it. You know, and is it hard sometimes? Absolutely, but so is living in it. You know, like, you know that saying, like, choose your hard. So the tools that I've been like blessed to learn and to go through myself, like I've gone through all the things that I do with my clients. I've been there. And it's all been probably the most least like painful way to have dealt with it. You know, I've been to counselors and I've been to psychologists and I've talked about it and I've talked about it and I've talked about it and there's some more. And I've talked about it again. But nothing, like, for me personally, nothing was changing anything. So, you know, and I still remember the day, like, I drew that line in the sand. I was like, right, no more. This has got to go. And it was when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, right, done. And I literally gave people in my life a talking to, you know, the organization, gave them a talking to, and I was like, no more. This stops before my child hits the ground. So, oh, that's getting me a little bit. Yeah. So it was like, we're done. This is done. So then I went and got my first lot of hypnotherapy and released, like, I went to hypnotherapy for anxiety with anxiety. On my way, I took my anxiety with me and got there and had the hypno, and like that changed the game. That was the start of the game changer. So yeah. So a lot of people had sort of said to me in the past, you know, like, you've got to face the person and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And I was like, I don't got to do anything for starters. And secondly, that person's not laying their eyeball on me ever again. But through the hypnosis, it was in my mind, right? It's all done in your mind. It's not done. And the freedom I got out of that was incredible.
Who introduced you to the idea of hypnosis?
I saw an ad it was an ad, like, I lived in a small town at the time. Where was it? I went to I went to the naturopath in town for something to do with my daughter. No, something to do with myself. She wasn't born then. And went to the naturopath, and they had the hypnosis couple, that they were a husband and wife team, had flyers in there, and their office was inside the naturopath office. And I was like, oh, okay. And then once I'd had my daughter, I went and actually had the session, and it was phenomenal. They specialized in anxiety. And yeah, I went in there and I walked out. Yeah, I mean, I've had bits and pieces of anxiety again, but I never had it again, like proper, out of nowhere, crippling. I never had it again. So now my level of anxiety is more a bit of nervousness if I'm doing something out of my comfort zone, like your normal level of anxiety for things.
Right, not a debilitating level.
No, that was gone. Yeah, that controlling my life, that all that. So I think that was gone. So, you know, and even when things did show up from that point, because challenges continued to happen, like it, you know, I still had stuff to deal with, but it was definitely a different level of internal emotion, if that makes sense.
Well, it does to me. Do you want to explain that a little bit more for those?
Well, like after that, like my husband and I separated, and it, like, my world definitely fell for a long time, like years. It took me years to recover from that, but it was still different. It wasn't the same level of anxiety or things that I had felt in the past. So, you know, with, you know, I had been through some abuse with my ex-husband, like more like mental sides of things, but it just was different. It wasn't the same level of anxiety. So I've worked on that stuff since with timeline therapy and that sort of thing, and that's all changed, and I can see him now and have absolutely nothing. I'm just like, oh yeah, I did life with that guy for a while. We got some kids, you know, like I don't feel anything anymore, which is really good, really, really good. But it was just more sadness, or, you know, working on myself versus the anxiety that I had from the abuse. Yeah.
Well, and that part also like really stands out for me, because sometimes when I'm having a difficult situation, I want the other person to change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always easier to make them change. You do it.
Right? These little fingers come out and like, you got to do something different.
But
What's that thing where you're like pointing?
yeah, 3 to you. That's what I was going to say. See, sister.
You do it.
Exactly. So I point like this now, you know?
Yeah.
All in the other direction.
That person there needs to change.
Yeah, point at you.
Yeah, and we do, right? Like it's so much easier to blame someone else. It always is. We all do it. No one's immune to it. But at some point you got to stop and go, hang on, what's my part in this? Like, or what are they showing me that's going on inside of here? You know, and it could be like trust, like am I trusting in self at the minute? You know, like it's whatever's going on out of here. It doesn't make what that person's doing okay, though. Let me just put that out there. It doesn't make what that person's doing okay, but what can I do in here? That's the only one that you can control.
Right. How can we center into a place of power?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you feel your core values are after all this incredible experience of sharing with us?
Trust is my number one for sure. Always will be. Obvious reasons. That's definitely one. The big thing with the values around, like if you've got conflict going on in your world, it's something to do with your values. Otherwise you wouldn't care. There would be no conflict, right? So trust is my number one. If I haven't got trust, I'm in a world of conflict inside myself. So that's probably, definitely my top of the list. Freedom's right under that one. And that's freedom internally, that's freedom externally, that's freedom to, you know, within my own business as well. Like I mentioned earlier, freedom to do what I want. If I want to be all airy fairy today, I'm going to do that. You know, I'm a morning person, so you'll usually catch me awake, bright-eyed, anywhere between 3:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. I'm up and at it. And if you're not a morning human, it's best you don't come near me because you're not going to like me. So I'm going to make you super uncomfortable because I'm full of energy at that time of the morning. But this morning I was like, I'm going to choose to work for my, I'm going to choose to just stay in bed today. And I was awake, but I laid in bed on my phone till like 7:30 this morning. And I actually did a post about it because that's very, very rare. So I have the freedom now that if I want to lay in bed and work from my bed for a minute, I can. If I want to go and see what my kids are doing, I can. If I want to go on, like, freedom's super important to me. And I remember before doing a lot of this sort of the timeline work and going through the breakthroughs myself, I was always chasing that freedom. I want freedom, I want freedom, I want freedom. But I wasn't quite sure what that actually looked like. And then when I went through my first full breakthrough experience, like we're talking 12 hours of work on my own mind solidly, like start to finish. And I remember going down to the beach and sitting there, and it was still, there was actually nothing. There was no thoughts. There was no negative emotion. There was no negative thoughts. There was just nothing. And I was like, oh, that's a freedom. Like, it's completely still. It's just like, yeah. So that financial freedom, the whole lot, I want just the whole bubble of freedom.
Amen.
Yeah, connection, contribution, and my voice. My voice is my big one too. Yeah, because that was shut for so long. So now it's like, I got lots to say if you don't want to hear it.
Yep, you're welcome to leave at any time. And
you're welcome to go. Yeah, my voice is super important as well.
Yeah. Your voice is super important, and that trust, that, and thinking through values and feeling into values, there's sometimes isn't, at least I was being taught that as a kid, but on an unconscious level, like I didn't know that that's what I was being instilled in me. And so bringing it to the forefront, like you're just talking about, right? Like what is underneath this action, and how come I'm, particularly right now, right? There's a lot happening in the world. And so really paying attention to what's ruffling my feathers. And then going underneath the emotional aspect of it and saying, like, what is the value or virtue that's getting charged up for me right now? And going back to what you talked about actually is like, how can I find the freedom within this? Like what needs to happen in my space so I can find some resolve?
And it helps you with direction. It helps you with what you need to do, what you need to work, like so much. I do values with every single one of my clients, every single one at the very start. And we actually work out how aligned with your values you are, because that will show you where the conflict is. And then we do them again after the breakthrough, and you'll usually find that the percentage that, you know, say if their trust is their value, for example, and 100% means they're totally aligned with that, and they're at like 20%, so which means they're very far away from their alignment with that value, so they're in conflict, right? They're like, oh, just when you get through the breakthrough and you do all this stuff first, usually that number will come up to like 60, 70, 80. Like the number at the end is hugely different, but it can absolutely change your world too. You know, I've had clients come through, and I had a young girl, and bless her, we did values, and she kept saying to me, I value sex. I'm like, cool, you might, but what's the like purpose or intention of that? And she's like, oh, I just like sex. And I'm like, that's cool, but you know, there's like something under that, right? And we kept going, and I kept going with her, and she'd come out, she's like, no, it's connection. I'm chasing the sex to get the connection that I'm not feeling or getting. So she was actually in a really toxic relationship at the time, and we did this, and it was actually in one of my workshops, my unemployed workshops. So they don't normally go this deep in there, but it went there. And she come back after lunch, and she's like, oh, I just thought I'd let you know I dumped my boyfriend. I was like, oh, what now? And she's like, no, straight after the values. Like, right, by text message. And she's like, yeah. I said, okay, what did you say? And she's like, this doesn't align with my values anymore. I'm done. We're done. End of story. And that was the end of it. From understanding what her values were and where that conflict was, she was like, no, I'm out. Straight up there. And then like took her power back. She's still not with him. She's now running her own business. She's now, you know, all these things. Your values alone can change so much.
Yeah,
I love them. I could talk about them for hours.
Very exciting. Well, you're going to have an opportunity, and people are going to have an opportunity, right? Because this is just a little taster about values. Yeah. You're going to get to be part of a 6-week program that we have not yet announced. It's going to be in November, right? And that's how we're going to start, is really giving people the opportunity to look more deeply at their values and figuring out, right, where's that internal conflict, and where are people in alignment, and how can we live a valueful life. I feel excited about it. I'm like wiggling in my seat.
I know, it gets your soul all buzzed, doesn't it?
So how do you feel essential oils have supported you in this process? And which one, if you can pick one, or you know,
I have two.
Okay.
So my number one is actually peppermint, and that's diffusing just here behind me. That's my, like, I'm anchored to it with confidence. So I used it through all my training, through all the stuff that I went with. It just happened to be in front of me for some reason. This must be my thing. And so through all of those, I mean, I've been through personally 5 breakthrough experiences now. Like, I've done a lot of one after another, because I go back and help my trainer coach his new students. So every time we do that, I get a clean up again. So I've been through a few, and every single time that peppermint's there. So I'm super anchored to it. And then whenever I do workshops or I do anything, it's there. And it just, I have the two. I have that, and I have an anchor in my hand that when I squeeze that, it makes me like, it's almost like I do this as soon as I squeeze my hand really tight. So between the two, I'm anchored. And the other one is the copaiba. So that's actually probably a little bit higher than the peppermint, but I don't use it as much as I probably should. So that's the one, like we were talking earlier, that's helped my partner come off, medications and things like that from spinal surgery. So that one's been a pretty powerful thing in our world.
Wonderful. That's incredible. So I looked in this emotional book because I was curious about what the I don't know if you have this book. It's a great one. We can, so it talks, so Kara, you actually were talking about, right, for every instance in life, right, there's a different oil, right? If you want creativity, you go to cypress, right? So copaiba is the oil of unveiling. Copaiba invites individuals to connect with their past. It offers a deep, intertwining energy that links experience to unveil the deeper meaning and messages showing up in one's life. How about that?
That's a goodie.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. So, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, my partner, so he had 2 spinal surgeries and ended up with a medication addiction from that. So with all of that, he's had to face things. And yeah, that's interesting because so he was on, one of the medications he was on was called Lyrica. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it's a pretty brutal, in my opinion, it's a pretty brutal drug. So to the point there's actually a Facebook support group for people on Lyrica. And he was on double the amount for someone that suffers severe seizures and things like that. It's made for people with seizures. And they usually take around, depending on the person, about 600 milligrams a day. He was on 600 twice a day. And if it got him good that day and he forgot that he'd taken it, he'd take another one. Like, I don't know how he's still walking, to be honest, with what was in his system. And the doctor just kept going, nah, up it, give him this, give him that. Like, they just kept giving him another one. And so we actually used copaiba to help him come off. So when we brought him off the Lyrica, each time we'd come down, his body would just go into these jolting things out of nowhere. He'd be sleeping there perfectly fine. Next minute, I'm ducking for cover because there's an arm coming or a leg or like just jolt. So I was telling you guys earlier, like I used to just in his sleep pull his chin down and put some drops in his mouth. And within 20 minutes, it would stop. And he was none the wiser that he'd even done it. So it was... yeah, a really good one for that.
So I feel like we need to just put a plug here that we typically go for consent, right?
We do typically go for consent. He does know that I would do it. So he did know that I would do that.
Right.
He was well aware. He just didn't know that he was doing the jolting.
Yes.
And rather than waking him up, I would and he would sleep through it. So yeah, but he takes it in his mouth. He's on, terpenes and things now. So yeah, it was consented. I just...
So before we wrap up, what will be a skill or something that you can offer to the people that we're watching now and the people that are watching the replay? Something that you like to share that is like your go-to?
Oh, my go-to is definitely take some notice of what it is you're actually focusing on or what it is that your thoughts are telling you. So we have this little piece of our brain called the reticular activating system. So it's a real piece, like a real little thing in there. And what its sole purpose is to give you exactly what you ask for. So if you're sitting there and you're like, what's an example? I always get the short end of the stick, right? And this just keeps happening to me. Why does this keep happening? Or I keep, I could never do that, right? So all these little thoughts like that, you're going to keep getting what you ask for. So even in a case of, I don't want to be broke anymore. Like the unconscious mind doesn't understand the don't. Yeah. It just hears the broke, So the more and more that you focus on those things, the more of that you're absolutely going to get. Okay, so notice what those are, what those thoughts are that you're telling yourself. What is it that you're hearing yourself say? Like, I'm not good enough, or I could never do that, or that person over there's better than me, or they always get it, I get the short end of the stick. You take some notice of those things and turn them around. Even if you don't believe it at the start, consciously, even if you're like, I don't really believe it, do it anyway. Change it around anyway, and keep telling yourself that. Obviously, there's other tools and things that we can do. And when you've been through some things in your life, we absolutely have the tools to be able to help you, move past those and integrate those and come to peace with those, and however you want to word it. But just for yourself, flip it around, keep flipping it around every time you hear it. And if you decide that you want something, be super specific with what that is. All right. Because remembering the RAS's point is to give you what you ask for. So if you're like, I want more money, there's $1, happy days. Don't spend it all at once. There's your more money, right? So it's like, be specific, so I want to earn $250,000 in the next 12 months by November 2022. Right? Super specific, like I've got a car that I want, and it's, I want a black and white Range Rover with the black top, with the black rims, the red brakes, the things, right? I am so specific on it. What do you think I see all the time?
That car, yeah.
That car. So many people would go, oh, I'd love this car, right? Like I want a blue Hilux. Next minute, it's like every man and his dog's got a blue Hilux driving down the street. And you're like, is this a sick joke? Like what it is the reticular activating system bringing it into your awareness. It's like, well, you've asked for it. Here it is. Like I'm here. You've just got to do the things to get it. Right? So it'll bring it into your awareness and it'll keep bringing it to you, but you've got to take the steps, obviously. So the biggest thing is watch what it is you're actually asking for. Be specific with what you actually want, not what you don't want, because otherwise you're going to get that.
Yeah, really being an observer of the mind. And when you notice, when I notice that my attention's gone a place and focusing on the lack or the fear or the worry or whatever, yes, inviting it to experience more of what I prefer to experience.
Yeah, and you'll just keep getting more of the lack and more of those sorts of things, the pain, and it's hard. Like I totally understand. It's hard when you're in the thick of it, when you're feeling anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, whatever you're feeling. At the end of the day, what the experience you've been through to get that pain is just the experience you've been through. But we all go through something that makes us feel anger, makes us feel sadness, fear, all these things, right? I've had clients come to me that have actually said to me, oh, I've not been through, the kind of stuff you've been through. And they get a bit like, I shouldn't be feeling this way because I haven't been what you've been through. But it's like, it doesn't matter what I've been through. You feel the anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. You still feel it. You still, and it can be something as simple as my dad didn't wave goodbye to me one morning on my way to school.
Yeah.
It can be something that, and next minute that kid's got sadness because dad didn't acknowledge me. Dad doesn't care. He doesn't love me. I'm not good enough. And it starts coming, right? So that you will just keep getting more of that. The more you invite it in, the more you think about it, the more power you give it. It's not saying ignore it. Don't ignore it. Still acknowledge it and go, okay, well, that's something that I need to focus on changing or working or, letting go of. But yeah, the more power you give it, the more of it you're going to get.
Thank you so much, Chantal. That's great. And where can people find you? You're having a little workshop coming up, a free one, and you?
Yeah, we are. Yep. So you can find me on Facebook, either under my name, Chantal Nash, or Solid 101. I'm on there as well. It's the one with our logo, the bulls. There's two on there. That's why I'm saying it. It's this one here. The other one, I haven't worked out how to close it. Or for our website, solid101.com.au. On the website, we are having an event this weekend. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're actually running a free Manifest Your Dreams, which I'm super passionate about. That one I get really excited. And literally showing you guys and teaching you guys the exact steps and things that I've done to create what I've created in the last year and a half, probably my entire life when I look back on it. But the last year and a half, quitting everything I did to be able to quit my job during a pandemic and, double to triple my income that I was earning in my job, in my own business, doing what I want to do and how I want to do it. right? So all that sort of stuff is how we're going to teach, you know, you guys to bring that in like, yeah, power. So kind of like what we did with you guys with the SMART goals to come to this point, but even more power and intensity.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Chantal, this is very exciting to just have you be part of the community, to have you offering your unique gifts, and for supporting and encouraging us all to raise our vibration by your willingness to stand in your own power and in your heart space and share your learnings and teachings. Yes. Thank you so much for being willing to do
You're
that.
welcome.
Conclude, because part of creative connections, or at one of the core, right, is centering into the sense of belonging. So can you share with us what happens for you when you feel like you belong?
Oh, that.
Yes.
There's not, I actually thought about this one and I was like, I don't know. But what I do know is that it's that like my face gets glowy, I get warm, I get excited, I get heat, like a lot more creative things happening, energy happening. Because when you don't feel like you belong, again comes that anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and that conflict, you know, that not being part of, not feeling good enough. You can see my face just changing as I'm talking about it, right? So it just, yeah, it's not nice to not belong, you know, and it's not fair. No one should feel like that. But when you do feel like it and you get to be part of something, whatever that looks like for you, yeah, things change. You feel amazing. You feel on top of the world. Yeah, that.
Yeah, and that's our aim to, we are good at holding space. That's we hold the space with our workshops, with all the things we do, and the magic happens because of what everybody brings. So thank you for everybody bringing their own magic. Even you were in silent in there listening for this time, but we see you there.
Yeah.
And and we also have a masterclass coming up.
We do, next Wednesday, about bridging the head and the heart. So we'll include all the details for all of this.
I'm looking forward to that. It's exciting.
You. Yeah. Change that story in multiple aspects of self. So thank you everyone for being here. And yeah, lots of love. And if you haven't already joined our Facebook group called Remember You Belong, please do, where we'll be posting this replay and we will be continuing to support love and reminding you that you are magnificent and awesome.
And if you want to be one that want to be interviewed, reach out, because we got a list already, but we know that this is going to continue for a long time. So the time is here and now to shine and to share your gifts and our gifts and all share together. Yeah.
And the more you do that too, right? Like with a lot of things we go through or people go through comes things like shame or like, oh, you know, people nervous to speak about what they've been through because someone might judge them or whatever those sorts of things are. But the more and more you do it and the more you stand in yourself and you're like, hey, this is my story. Like the more power you feel like within yourself, the more strength, the more freedom you actually get. It's really good. I suggest people start talking.
Amazing. Well, thank you and lots of love.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Stop the recording.